Agentic AI. You know, these AIs that can think for themselves, make plans, and actually do things in the world. It feels like this technology just appeared out of nowhere, right? But what if I told you the blueprint for all this? It's not new at all. And what if its original purpose wasn't about making our lives easier, but about influence and control? Yeah, let's get into it. So, I bet when you hear agentic AI, you're thinking 2023, maybe the last year or so, with the whole LLM explosion. It feels like this crazy new thing, right? Something born just yesterday. But is that really the whole story? Well, you might want to think again. The basic idea behind these agents goes back decades, and its roots aren't in some Silicon Valley garage. They're deep inside the military-industrial complex. And the original goal? It wasn't about chatbots. It was about modeling, predicting, and, yeah, steering human behavior. All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to tear down the myth that this is all brand new. Then we'll rewind the clock to the early days of cybernetics and something called reflexive control. After that, we'll uncover these incredible early blueprints from a national lab. Then we'll see how today's LLMs are basically putting a rocket engine on that old design, look at the very real risks that creates, and finally talk about what on earth we can do to govern these things. Okay, so to really get this, we have to go back in time. And we're not starting in Silicon Valley. Nope. We're going back to the mid-20th century, to a field that really laid the foundation for, well, for all of this. It's called cybernetics. So the core of cybernetics is actually a super simple idea. It's all about the feedback loop. Just think. Sense, think, act. It's a cycle, right? An agent senses the world around it, thinks about what to do, and then acts. That's it. And this simple little loop, it's the operating system for pretty much everything. From the thermostat on your wall to, you guessed it, incredibly complex military operations. And this is where that simple loop gets, well, really serious. Military strategists saw this and basically weaponized it. They created a doctrine called reflexive control. And check this out. The goal isn't to, force your enemy to do something. No, it's way more subtle. It's about manipulating the information they get, so you change their entire perception of reality. You feed them exactly what you want them to see, and they end up choosing to do what you wanted all along. It's not about controlling their hands, it's about controlling their minds. Which brings us right to the core of this whole thing. We're talking about some absolutely mind-blowing work done at Sandia National Laboratories. That's a U.S. government research lab. And get this, it was happening way back in the 2000s. And the source material we're looking at is crystal clear here. This wasn't just some theoretical thing they were kicking around. No way. These models they built at Sandia more than a decade ago. They are a direct, pre-LLM blueprint for the AI threats that are keeping security experts awake at night right now. Okay, let's look at the proof. Here's a diagram from a Sandia report from 2006. It shows their agent-based model. Now, what were they trying to do? They were trying to simulate how people in extremist groups would talk to each other and react to different situations. And look at the pieces, even back then. You've got understanding the world, choosing an action, responding. It's that same cybernetic loop, sense, think, act, but they're applying it directly to how humans think. And just a few years later, by 2010, things got way more advanced. This is their Unified Psychocognitive Engine, the UPCE. Now, this thing went way beyond just modeling what someone does. It was trying to create a digital copy of a person's inner world. We're talking about encoding their motivations, their emotions, even all those little mental shortcuts and biases we all have, like anchoring. This wasn't about simulating behavior anymore. This was about simulating the mind itself. And this next part, this is where you see the real ambition, the grand plan. These individual mind models, they weren't meant to just sit there by themselves. Oh no, the idea was to plug them into these huge societal simulations. Why? So you could create a tool that could predict how entire countries might react to US policy. This was about modeling influence on a truly global scale. So, for a long time, this blueprint was kinda stuck on the drawing board. It was limited by the computers and the data they had back then. But now we have large language models. And suddenly, that old blueprint is waking up. It's coming to life with powers that its original designers probably couldn't even imagine. And this is where it all clicks into place. Look at this. On the left, you've got Sandia's diagram from 2006. On the right, a diagram of a modern AI agent from today. Sure, the words are a little different, but look at the structure. It's basically identical. Both of them take in info, run it through some kind of belief system, and then act on the world. It's the same fundamental blueprint, almost 20 years apart. It's wild.
So if the blueprint's the same, what's the big deal? Well, it's the engine that's changed. Today's LLMs are a total game changer. They have this enormous built-in knowledge of the world, not just some tiny curated data set. And this is huge. They're not stuck in a simulation. They can use real tools like web browsers and APIs to actually do stuff in the real world. They can plan on the fly, they can reflect on their own actions, and they can mimic human behavior so well, it's honestly kind of scary.
And that is exactly why this history lesson is so important. It shows us that the goal behind these systems, the whole idea of modeling and influencing people, that's not new at all. What is new, and frankly what's terrifying, is the incredible exponential jump in what these things can actually do. I mean, just look at this table. It draws a perfect line from then to now. The basic building blocks are all there, they just have new, fancy names. What Sandia called an ideology vector, we now call a persona embedding. It's how you give the AI a personality. What they called a cognitive deliberation engine, today that's chain of thought planning, which is just the AI thinking things through step by step. It is literally the same architecture, just with a supercharged engine bolted on.
So let's just boil this all down, okay? What stayed the same? The goal, influence and control. What's changed dramatically? The power. And if you take away only one thing from this, let it be this. Modern AI agents are operational. They are not stuck in some lab simulation anymore. They are out in the real world taking real actions. They can figure out how to deceive people all on their own, and they can run complex hacking and influence campaigns at a speed and scale that our brains just can't even process.
This threat matrix here, it's kind of like the famous ones they use in cybersecurity. And it makes the danger feel very, very real. We are not talking about sci-fi anymore. We're talking about agents that can snoop around networks all by themselves, create perfectly tailored phishing emails for millions of people at once, and here's the scariest part, unleash massive influence campaigns or even cause things to happen in the physical world. Look at the risk levels. They shoot up to critical and extreme in no time.
Okay, so we're facing this incredibly powerful technology that's built on a decades-old military blueprint. The big question is, what do we do now? How on earth do we build the kind of safeguards that we so obviously need, like yesterday?
Well, the source material lays out a defense with multiple layers. First up, detection. We need ways to spot these autonomous agents out in the wild, just like we hunt for botnets. Second, we need containment. That means forcing them to operate in sandboxes, so they can't just run wild with real-world tools. Third is protection. Building what you could call cognitive firewalls to try and block these AI influence ops. And finally, we need oversight. That means seriously stress testing these systems, red teaming them, and getting international agreements on the rules of the road.
And all of this leaves us with one last pretty sobering thought to chew on. The blueprint for using AI to influence people has been quietly in the works for almost 20 years, and it was born from a desire for control. So now that the technology has finally caught up to that old ambition, are our safeguards, our policies, our entire way of thinking about this, are we decades out of date?